Hi, and thanks for joining me today. So I thought that I would bring out my Tonic Studios craft kit number, I think it was 33, White Wonderland, and make a mini album out of it. So I do already have a lot of this prepared, so I'm not going to go through all of the steps, but I'll go through all of the different layout and pages. So when I saw the die set, I thought it would be a really good size for just a small little mini album, and so I thought why not try to use the entire kit and put together an album. So on this layout, I've decided to do a flip up. There is a magnet here on this little tab, and this right here is a pocket. So just grab a scrap piece of paper so you can slip something in here and then close it down nice and tight. And the paper I'm using is the paper pad that actually came in the kit, which is one of the reasons why I thought it was perfect for creating a mini album. So all I've done here is prepared all of the pieces. So this is the largest die in the set, and this is going to be my page base. I've then cut, let's see, a couple more pieces here. So this is the pocket itself, and it's the full width of the page, and in terms of height, it is 2 7/8 with 1/2 inch tabs on the side. And then I've already put a magnet on the inside of that pocket, and this is here to remind me to put this on the top flap here before I finish that piece off. Speaking of the top flap, that's this piece right here, and this is the full width of the page base, and the height is 3 1/4. This also has a 1/2 inch tab. And so I'll start by adhering this top flap first. And once that's down, then we can put our decorative paper over that. And that will cover up most of the seam here. So alternatively, what you could do is actually have the flap attached behind this page and wrap around it. That way you don't have that seam at all. And it's a little bit of a cleaner finish. I didn't think about that, and I'd already put my glue double-sided adhesive tape here, so we're just gonna go with it. And also I did that on this side, and just to make it look consistent, I'll just do it the same on this layout as well. So I'll go ahead and peel that off. Line that up with the top of the page. And give it a nice burnish. Okay, so now that that's down, then I can, so you can either choose to, for the decorative piece, since most of it is gonna get covered by the pocket, I've only really cut this to the length that that I need, so just below the pocket. And I'm gonna go ahead and put this down first, and I'm just gonna use my ATG gun. You could use a liquid glue if you wanted, but I don't think I need the extra strength of a liquid glue, and in terms of positioning, this is kind of easy enough to get centered, so I don't need that extra wiggle room either. Normally, anywhere that I have what I like to call like a working fold, where there's a hinge that moves back and forth, a lot of times I'll actually reinforce that hinge with a strip of Tyvek. In this case, I'm not doing that because this album, I'm not sure who it's going to, but I don't think it'll be one of those things that, you know, it's necessarily going to really need to be reinforced. So I think it'll be okay without it. And I'm just gonna line up that pocket. Get that nice. Okay, I like to put the bottom down first, and then sometimes that makes it a little easier, because once you have that nice and straight where you want it, then you can you just need to fold it back up, and the sides will go where they need to go. Okay, get that down. And I did put this doesn't come in the kit, but I put this strip of Love from Lizzie's pinstripe stickers, and this one in particular was one of their it's a really neat one because it's got some I think the actual color is blue, like a nice pale blue, that's in this colorway, but it's got a hint of silver as well, so that's pretty nice. Gives it a little bit of extra interest. These little tabs here that I'm using as my tab to secure down the top flap, those were actually cutouts from the die set itself. So when you cut, this is one of the die sets, so when you cut one of these small frames, it actually will cut one of these pieces, and this is actually just an offcut that I had extras of, and so instead of having this just go into my scrap pile or throwing it away, I thought, let me just try to use it somewhere. So here's how I've decided to try to use it. What I'm gonna do is just gonna try to line this up so the magnet is on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this magnet onto this one piece. I'll try to center it within this tab. And then I'm going to put some adhesive down. So on the tab. And I'm also going to put a little bit of score tape. I like to use a nice strong adhesive anywhere that I feel needs sort of just a little bit extra strength. So score tape is the strongest tape that I have. I think a red line tape would probably work really well too. So I'm gonna get that on here. So definitely want to make sure this magnet is held down. Pardon my puppy. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop that. Okay, so it'll automatically kind of find its little partner on the other side there, so we know that that's in the right place. I'm going to lift up this, and I'm going to just fold the top flap down so that this tab is adhered now to the top flap. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach the other half of my tab, and then we'll put the decorative paper on top of that to hide some of these inner workings. So I do want to make sure that these tabs hold that magnet in there nice and securely. So I'm going to put another bit of score tape here. And I'm actually going to surround this tab with some liquid adhesive. And that'll make this a really nice permanent bond. I also put a little strip of double-sided adhesive at the top. That's what's going to stick to the paper. Alright. And I'm going to pinch this close and just going to hold it for a few seconds here. I'm using Lineco pH neutral liquid adhesive. It's pretty quick grabbing, fairly quick drying. You do want to, if you can, just give it a nice burnish. Make sure that glue is nice and evenly dispersed. And I really only have to, it's pretty well stuck already, but I'm just going to continue to pinch and hold it for a little, maybe a couple more seconds. Make sure it's really stuck good. And I think we're good. So now we've got our magnet. Now we just need to put our decorative papers on. So I think I'm going to put this on the inside because I liked the repeating pattern of this dark blue, dark light, dark light. And so I'll put this one on the outside. Oh, or did I want this one? No, I think I want this. And since this layer is just decorative, I think ATG tape is probably just fine. So, go with that. I really love this colorway. Blue is my favorite color, so this entire kit just really speaks to me. And it's really nice that it comes with a paper pad. I don't think that's standard. Maybe it's standard whenever they introduce a new color trend, because I think the white Wonderland is one of the 2020 color trends, so maybe that's how they do that. So there you have it. We've got our pocket page with top flap. So I'm thinking of putting this on the inside front cover and inside back cover, and everything in between. There's going to be 4 page signatures, so front and back it'll be a total of 8 pages, but I've got 4 essentially different layouts or designs, but I like to kind of mirror my pages, so they'll you'll kind of see them duplicated a little bit, just like how I made 2 pocket pages just now. The next set of pages, one of these is going to be my first page, and the other one will be the very last page, and I'm not actually sure which one is going to go where. A lot of this is constructed already, so I'll talk through what I did, because it's not really rocket science. With this background panel, all I did was, I have so many, strips of the pattern paper, and this is one of my favorite things to do when I have a lot of these small, thin strips, and all I do is I just pick a piece that I want to have in the center, and in this case I just wanted the stars. Cut it into a nice square or rectangle, whatever size you want. And then in this case, what I did as I was laying down the strips was I left a little bit of a gap in between each strip. And when I went to adhere this down, I actually covered this entire page base with a sheet of double-sided adhesive. So there's adhesive on this entire panel, and by leaving a gap, you're also leaving a section of the adhesive that's exposed. And what I did with that exposed adhesive is I then filled it with some Nuvo gilding flakes. And what I like to do is, this is a full size, and I bought this as a 3-pack, so it came silver, gold, and I think maybe like a copper color. And what I like to do is actually pinch a little bit out of this big container, and I put it into a smaller container. But I don't try to... This is filled and just really crammed in there so that everything is really compressed down. It's a very light container, but they have packed it pretty tightly. I mean, gilding flakes are very light. So what I do is I pinch some out of the large container into the small container, but I'm not trying to push everything down. In fact, I do it and then I shake this up just so that it sort of, there's some air that's kind of introduced, and that way it's a little easier to pull out little sheets and work with it once it's like fluffed up a little bit more. So I'll open this up and just hope it doesn't all go flying, but you can see I've barely taken anything out of it, and I've filled this up probably maybe 3 or 4 times now. And this is a very generous amount, so I probably won't use this up in my lifetime. So it's nice to have like such a large container to work from, because you can really be generous with it and not feel like, at least for me, I don't feel like I have to be super precious about it. So using it in a technique like this is really fun. It adds sort of that nice little extra touch of silver, which is part of the colorway for this color trend, and so I thought it would be a nice way to bring everything together. So that's going to be the back of my page. For this, oops, that's the problem with gilding flakes. It's kind of like glitter. It gets everywhere. So on this page, for the window arch here, I've die cut out of white, but I also die cut out of the pearlescent paper that came in the kit, and I inlaid some of that back in here. And partly that is because I'll be using, this is the other piece, I'll be using this piece probably on the cover. So it's basically the exact same thing. I've got acetate, I've got a layer of the frame, and in this case, I put the silver gilding on behind the frame here. So that piece I'll use later, but anytime I die cut patterns or, intricate patterns like this out of pretty paper like this pearlescent paper, I like to keep all of these little pieces that fall out and inlay it back into a white frame. That way I actually use up everything and none of that pretty paper goes to waste. all I've done here is just put some acetate behind here and then some foam adhesive. And the idea is that this is going to be a place where whoever gets this album can slip in a photo and have it be a little bit of a photo frame. And if they wanted, they could leave it like this even, and it would just kind of frame the page, and it would still look interesting because there's something interesting behind there. But the idea is that they can use this, because I'll include this with it, but they can pull this out, adhere their photo to this, and then slide this right back in. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I only put the foam strips on 3 edges, that way the top is left open so that they can slip that photo tab in. And this probably doesn't need the extra dimension of the foam adhesive. You could still slip a photo in here, behind here, just as well if this was glued directly to the page. I just wanted to add a little bit of dimension and have this pop up off of the page a little bit to make it just a little extra interesting. So go ahead and get that on there. Might actually see if okay. Alright, and so that's one photo frame page. The next photo frame page is a little bit different, constructed differently. This is actually going to be a little peekaboo window. So all I did here was I cut out from plain colored cardstock the base page, or the die that I'm using as my base page. And there's a die that cuts this sort of window archway, and I did a partial die cut to leave this hinged portion here, so this can fold back and open. And I happen to have this panel left over from, I think, probably the flip video that I made earlier, and so I kept that tucked in the kit materials. So I went ahead and pulled that out. Then what I did was there is a piece of acetate here, and I don't know if there was a better way of doing this, but here's how I did it, and maybe I made it more complicated than it needs to be, but the idea is that all of this is going to get glued down, and what I've done is I've left open this top portion here so that whoever gets this is a little wider than will fit. Okay, there we go. So whoever gets this album can then slip a photo back behind the peekaboo window, and you know, when it's closed, it's got this beautiful cotton paper design, and then when they open it, there'll be a photo there. So that's the idea behind this one. And I might create, similar to what I did here, where I've got the template, I might create a template so that it's easy to get this to be the right size. So that's one thing that I haven't done in advance, but I might do that before I give this album away. How I created this little window here is I cut a piece of acetate that's essentially the same size as the silver frame, and then I cut a slit in the acetate that basically ran along this line and then up a little bit of a ways up here, and then a little ways around the bottom. And that way, this little peekaboo door here, I slipped this through the slit in the acetate. So if I do this, you can maybe see that there's actually a slit here. And that's how the door is able to slip in front, but then you're also still able to slide a photo behind the acetate. So that is how that one was put together. And I'll go ahead and attach this to the page. Now this solid cardstock is from my stash. It's not from the card kit or the colorway. It's not even a Tonic Craft Perfect paper. I could have used the pearlescent paper that's roughly this size, or this shade. In fact, I picked this because it is pretty close to that pearlescent paper. But the pearlescent paper is so pretty, I didn't want to use up such a large chunk of it. You only get the one sheet in the card kit, and I haven't yet ordered more. I did finally order the iridescent mirror cardstock in a variety of colors, so I'm really looking forward to getting that, because that was definitely my favorite specialty card that came in the kit. So there's that. So I've got my two sort of photo frame pages. The next set of pages is, I thought this would be kind of fun. It's very similar to the photo frames earlier. These are smaller. So these are let's see, the die that actually will cut the inside frame for this. So that's, this whole piece actually could fit, I'll show you, this whole thing could actually fit right inside there. So that's about the size of it. So these will end up being rather small photos, but these are photo frames, so you can slide a photo behind here. And I did make a little shaker window, and since this is sort of a winter themed album, I put some fake snow, and the snow that I have is sort of that iridescent look, which I think is really cute. So I've gone ahead and made these. They're completely sort of self-contained little frames. So this already has its backing. All I need to do is just glue it onto the page, and so I'll go ahead and assemble all the pieces to make one of these. So basically I've got a layer that is my frame, the decorative frame, and I'm just gonna run a very thin line because I don't want it to, I'm gonna be attaching my acetate to this, so I don't want the acetate to really ooze everywhere. It will dry clear, but if you've ever glued anything onto acetate, you know sometimes there's degrees of clearness. So just gonna put a little bit all around the inside and the outside border, and then I use the same die that cuts this outer edge to cut out my acetate, so that's going to be the exact same size. So just need to line that up edge to edge. And what I like to do is just put it on some paper towel, or in this case I'm using shop towel, and I give it a nice burnish just to make sure all of that glue is well adhered, and is spread out. And if anything does ooze out, then the shop towel will soak that up. So next is I'm gonna put a little, I've got another frame here, and that's a solid, this gray card is actually Craft Perfect, and it does come in the kit. And this is actually gonna sit behind my acetate, and so it'll kind of fill in behind that decorative layer. And I chose this order because I kind of like the shininess of the acetate to be from edge to edge. So, but you could reverse it. You could put this directly behind the white layer and then put your acetate. But I'm doing it like this for that factor of having, you know, that sort of shininess of the acetate going all the way around, even in these like little open areas around the frame. But either way, the reason to have this solid piece is so that we have a nice wider area to put our foam to hold all of our shaker bits in. So I'm going to do the same thing here as I did before, where just thin layer of liquid adhesive on the inner and outer border. You really don't need a lot. This is good glue. It's tacky. It's fairly quick drying, and it'll be permanent once it's completely dry. So I'm gonna stack that up, and I'll do the same thing and give it a really good burnish. Okay. So now we want to get some foam onto there. So I am gonna just use, I make these foam strips, but you can definitely buy foam strips that, you know, come in different widths. So I'm using this. All I do to make this is I have foam sheets that already have adhesive on one side. So then what I do is I just take some of my double-sided adhesive, and I'll take a couple different widths of it and just lay strips down onto the foam sheets on the side that does not already have adhesive. And then I just use my steel ruler, and I use a utility blade, but you could use like a craft knife to just cut these strips. And so now I have them in various widths. So this is 1/4 of an inch, and this is 1/8 of an inch. So really convenient. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping this around. And it can be easier to, at least I've found, as you're going around corners, if you actually pull up the release paper on both sides, you get less resistance to kind of turning corners. And so what I'll do, just to avoid touching with my fingers the adhesive, I'm just using a piece of this is just a piece of adhesive liner from my adhesive sheets, and I'm just going to use that, because if you touch your adhesive too much, you're going to take away some of the tackiness, and it's going to lose its adhesive strength. So I don't want that. I want to make sure this holds nice and firm. And this way you get a pretty continuous section of adhesive going all the way around. So if you're doing a shaker, you do not want any gaps in your adhesive, otherwise your shaker bits are going to fall out. So I'm going to just continue to work this. So almost made it. I just got a little little gap here. Okay, put that up. Alright, and then once I end up back where I started, I'm gonna go ahead and cut off my foam. Just gonna push that down, make sure it's even. Alright, so there's that, and now to fill it. Since my intent for this is that these are photo frames, so the idea is to be able to slip a photo behind here. I don't want to fill it completely with the snow. I just want a little bit at the bottom so that you can still see whatever the subject of the photo is. So I'm gonna... This bag of snow was huge. I actually got it from, I think, the Dollar Tree, and this is just a small portion of it that I've put into this little plastic Tupperware. So I'm not gonna use too much because I only have, my adhesive is not that thick either. It's only, I think, 1 millimeter. So not that thick at all. So this doesn't look like a lot, but it's really gonna spread out. And I'm gonna actually help it spread out a little bit. So my adhesive is exposed, so what I'm gonna do is now just put the other layer of clear acetate right over top. And before I put this down, let me give it a good wipe, make sure it's nice and clean. Saw some smudges on here. One thing that I've started to use is I've used Goo Gone, which is good for for getting sort of adhesive residue off of, well, anything really, I think, except for maybe fabric. But I found that it's really, I've actually snagged it from my husband. I found it's been really useful in the craft room just to do cleanups like this, or clean my scissors after I've had to cut into adhesive foam like this. So there we go. That's nicely secured all the way around. And I'll give this a good burnish as well. And anytime I'm burnishing acetate, I do like to put a shop towel onto it. That way I don't scratch the acetate or damage it in any way. So there's our little shaker window. Not a lot of snow, but that's definitely how I want it, because these are small photos anyway, so I don't want for it to take away too much from the photo that's eventually going to go in here. And I did get this second piece of acetate. I applied it a little bit off, so I'll go ahead and trim that down a little bit just so that this acetate isn't sticking out too much. It's clear, so you probably won't be able to see it, but trimming it off will make it probably a little bit easier to slide your photo in. So the last thing to do is then to just put a little bit of adhesive on the 3 edges of the frame, leaving the top open so that a photo can be slipped in. And I'm actually going to use 1/8 inch adhesive and adhere this to the outer edge. That way, when you do put your photo in, it can be a little bit larger than what you can see through, and your photo then gets kind of nicely framed within here, and it makes it just a little bit easier to, it's not quite as snug of a fit, so just gonna give as much extra room as possible. I'm really only taking this up to the point where it starts to curve. So this entire section right along here, there's no adhesive there. And since this was cut with the same die as everything else, it's going to line up perfectly. So I'll get that down and can give that a good burnish. So now that my 2 frames are done for this page, I can go ahead and adhere them. So this particular layout is actually going to sit side by side like this, and so I don't know if I want something like this or if I want the 2 pages to be identical like that, but I think I do want something like this, or even the other way around, but having it sort of be mirrored as opposed to being identical. So I'm gonna work with it like that, and I am going to use liquid adhesive mostly because I think I might need the extra wiggle room to really get this in the right spot. Okay, so something like that looks about the same as that side. Do the same on this one. Alright. So I think these are fun. They're small, so you're not going to really be able to put a big photo behind there, but I was thinking this might go to my brother, and he has 4 girls, so I was thinking he might put a photo, like a close-up kind of portrait photo, maybe one of the small school photos or something of each of his 4 girls in this layout. So I haven't yet decided if that's who's going to be getting this, but that's who I had in mind. So I'm going to probably do the same thing where I create some photo tags so that it's convenient. They know they can pull it out. They'll know first off that they can slip something behind there. So that's first and foremost. If there's like a nice little tag and there's maybe like a little ribbon or a string or something that they can pull out, and then they'll have something that they can use to actually cut their photo to, and know that that will fit in there. So that is another page layout complete. Set those aside. Alright, so the next one, this is going to be a really simple one, just a gatefold. So I've already gone ahead and created the base page, and all I did was cut a couple flaps and with a hinge and attach them. So One of my flaps is 2 3/4 wide, and the other one is the same. So they're both 2 3/4, and they do overlap by about 1/2 inch in the center. And when I do these gatefolds, I do like for there to be an overlap between the two halves, quote halves, because if you're planning on having something special be revealed on the inside, I always worry a little bit that the gates, if it's perfectly cut to be centered, that there might, if you glue it down or if you, score it just a smidge off, there might be a little bit of a gap between the two gates. And so that's why I always like for there to be an overlap, so that you'll never have a gap where the inside of your gatefold gets exposed accidentally. And in this case, this is the panel that I've created to go on the inside, and I did something really similar to the first panel where I, using just some strips, I sort of did a, it's not quite a herringbone, but I created this pattern, leaving a gap in between each strip and then just filling in that exposed adhesive with some silver gilding flakes. And then I'll just attach that on the inside. And for that, I think I will just use an ATG gun. Usually if it's something that's just decorative, I don't often feel that I need to use super strong adhesive because there's no stress on this panel. For the hinges, for example, since we definitely want that to hold everything in place and not come up at all, then I use slightly stronger adhesive like a score tape. And that's convenient. I already have double-sided adhesive on these, so let's see. So again, these are, my intention is that when we open the book, these are gonna both be seen at the same time. So I think what I want to do is something like that. And then maybe something like that. I guess I don't want it to be really identical on the inside, so let's see. Put this on the inside, and I'll put this on the inside. That works. And then on the outside, I'll put this and that. Okay, let's go with that. I could probably sit here and debate these choices for a good long time. Sometimes I can be a little indecisive when it comes to paper choices. You do get a generous amount of paper, but and they are double-sided, so that's really nice. I think it's 24 sheets in total. So lots to work from. I still have, I made, a handful of cards already, and I I'm making this album, which is actually using a lot of the pattern paper. I didn't use that much of the pattern paper in my cards though, so I did have a lot. I think practically all of the paper pad was still available. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to dip into this kit again and make an album, because there was just so much left over from my cards that I wanted to make another project out of it, especially since everything is just so pretty. So I thought this would be a really nice either a holiday gift or possibly, I do know some winter babies, so this might be a birthday gift, because there's nothing, the kit itself does have some Christmas themed, holiday themed sentiments, and the stencil actually says Merry Christmas, and some of the dies have, you know, loosely holiday connotations, but there isn't anything super Christmas or holiday about the papers at all, so they could definitely just be for, they're not even really super winter, because it's not like there's a lot of snowflakes or, you know, anything like that. It's just wintry maybe in color, but it could just as well work for a birthday. Okay, so perfect. Alright, so there's my gatefold. And it doesn't really matter too much, you know, which one's on top to me. These, I don't think they need a closure. Sometimes I'll put a magnet as a closure, and it's just so that it's not kind of hovering like that, or it doesn't, you know, as you flip the page, it doesn't just fall open. But I don't think this really needs it, so I'm okay with it being like that. Maybe I'll have some second thoughts about that later, but for now I think this is okay as is. Then my last layout. So this is gonna be a waterfall. So this piece was actually let's see, I think if you use 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper to cut your frames out of, your base pages out of, then the strip of paper that you have left over, you can actually get, I think, 2 of these waterfall tabs. So that's often how I create my layouts, is I look at all the offcuts and then I just try to figure out a way to use those up so that they don't just continue to add to my scrap pile, or I would definitely not want to throw them away since there's sizable pieces of scraps left, so very usable. So all I've done is I've cut myself 4 panels that will be my flaps, and I did cut these, again, this is going to be a layout that, you know, is going to sit side by side, so you'll see both at the same time, and I don't know if I want them to be identical in terms of the order, maybe reversing the order, and I think I'll do it identical, so it'll be like that. Okay. To make my waterfall mechanism, there's probably a lot of different dyes on the market for this, but it's easy enough to do yourself. So I just took, again, another piece of that scrap that I had left over. I tried to get a piece that was of 110-pound cover so that this is a nice sturdy mechanism. And all I did was I gave myself, let's see, measure this. So yeah, that's what that, okay, so I went down 5 inches and then I started scoring. And these are scored 3/8 of an inch apart. So I scored at the 5-inch mark, 3/8 from that, 3/8 from that, and 3/8 from that. And then I just put some score tape, 4 pieces, because we have 4 tabs. And as you can see, that's 1, 2, so only the top 3 are actually going to flip up. This last one is actually adhered to the page itself. So, you know, if that's how you want to create it, then, you know, this mechanism will work for that. So that's what I've done here. Then all I did was take another piece of scrap that's about 1 inch wide, but how wide it is doesn't really matter too much. And I just wrapped it around these 2 pieces, similar like a belly band. And so it's glued down to the front piece, the piece that's shorter and has the multiple score lines and the tape, glued down to the front. Then when it's wrapped up around to the back side, the belly band is glued only to itself, which leaves this back tab able to move and slide freely. So one thing to keep in mind in terms of placement is that if this is too far up, then you see how my first score line is butting up against it? That essentially is going to stop, you know, the flipping action. And so I didn't pay super close attention to that, and so this last flap doesn't quite open all the way back. I mean, it's just kind of sitting straight up, which means that for one, it kind of obstructs, you know, whatever you're going to put here a little bit. Second, if whoever got this did decide to maybe put a photo on the back, then it would be really hard to see that. I mean, you'd have to tip your book, you know, backwards like that to be able to see it. So if I had it to do over again, first off, I would be more mindful of that fact. So just in terms of the fact that this belly band here does act as a stopper for your pulling mechanism. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I mean, naturally, it will stop just because there aren't any more score lines and, you know, the last tab is adhered to the page. But this technically could have gone a little bit more, just so that, you know, the third flap flips a little bit more. So that's just something to note if you're doing this yourself. So now all we have to do is, that's our mechanism complete. So then we just need to attach our flaps to this. Before I do that though, I'm gonna go ahead and round off this corner because I want this nice decorative. This is a really nice big tab, so it makes it really easy to kind of grab onto this and pull. And it's a little bit nicer than to just have the white, but the extra layers of these circles that I die cut will also make this like a really sturdy piece as well. So I already kind of tested out the placement and I drew myself a line where to cut, so I'm just gonna go ahead and trim this off. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're not gonna see it anyways. These little tabs are gonna cover that. I don't have to glue the tabs on now, but It's probably easier to do it, before it's actually on the page so that you can give it a good burnish, but I'll do that after I get these tabs in. So now all I have to do, I'm going to start with my bottommost first, and what I'm going to do is just lay this on top of here and then line it up so that it's roughly centered. And you want to get the top of this edge up to the score line, but you don't want to go past the score line. So just get it right up to the score line, but not over it. So once that's in, go ahead and give that a burnish. And once you have the first one down, then it's a little bit easier to line up the rest, because then you can just line up the two sides, and if it's easier, you could kind of, to see the score line, you could just bend it a little bit so you can see where that is. And I'm just going to hold the two sides like this so that I make sure that everything lines up nice and straight. Give that a good burnish. Do the same thing on the next one. Hold the side. Bend that up so that I can see the edge of the score line. So you can do this whatever way is easiest for you. And the more you work this action, the smoother it'll flip. So getting these folds to kind of move as often as you can before you gift it will kind of help it move more smoothly once you do finally give it away to somebody, so that by the time they get it, everything's gonna go nice and smoothly. So there's that. Now I will go ahead and glue these pieces on, and I'll just use a liquid glue just to make sure this is nice and secure, and if I need to, I can smush it around a little. And this is that really pretty iridescent mirror card that I still had some left over from the kit, but I just ordered more. I waited, so when I first loaded my cart with the mirror card, I had everything was available, and then I waited a little bit, and then one of the blues, the darker of the two, went out of stock. And blue's my favorite, and that was one of the reasons why I definitely wanted all of the blues, because they do have multiples of shades of blue, multiple shades of red, multiple shades of green, but the blues I definitely wanted, so I waited for that to come back in stock. And once it was in stock for a good bit, but there wasn't anything else I wanted to buy, so I just held off on putting my order in. And finally, just this past Wednesday, there was a Wednesday deal that had one of their mystery bags, which the last couple times they've offered that, I've missed out. Like, I've been too late to the game, and this time I saw it and I ordered it right away, and finally, put through my purchase for the iridescent mirror card. But then 2 other colors went out of stock, so I don't have all. I think it was 8 that they have, and unfortunately, one of the ones that was out of stock was they had a white one, which I really wanted too, but I just didn't want to keep on waiting, because it seems like these iridescent cards are super popular, so I figured I would be waiting for a really long time if I just continued to wait. Okay, so to attach this to the page, what I'm going to do I don't know if you could see it here, but I've actually attached it with some foam. But, bearing in mind that this does flip, these panels do flip down, you have to give enough clearance. You can't put foam on the entire back panel, basically only to the top of where your belly band is, because that's, in my case, that's where the panels flip back, and they'll need that room unobstructed so that they can move freely. So I'm only gonna put my foam adhesive just below that. And I'm gonna put it a couple pieces just to make sure this is nice and level and secured to the page. The same thing on the other side. And I'm also going to put just some liquid adhesive on just the belly band. You don't want any adhesive on the sliding mechanism, because again, this mechanism needs to be able to move freely. So you don't want any adhesive here, but where this belly band is, you can put adhesive there to keep that nice and attached to the page. So, but I'm going to use a liquid adhesive because with all of the layers and of cardstock, because there's 2 layers of cardstock for the sliding mechanism, and then there's 2 and even 3 layers of the belly band. So all of that width just about takes me to the width of my foam, because my foam is not very thick. So that just about brings me level with everything else. So it doesn't, I don't want to put foam there because then that'll make it the center portion higher. So now I'm gonna get all of this off. And this is basically the last page layout. So then I just have my cover, outside front and outside back covers, and I'll be done. Okay, so I accidentally smeared some. So if you do accidentally get some adhesive on this mechanism here, you definitely want to wipe that away. Don't let that dry attached to something, because otherwise your waterfall won't move. In fact, now that that's dry, I'm just going to use a gum eraser, really make sure that residue is cleared. Okay, and actually I don't usually do this, but I'm gonna put a little bit of adhesive on my foam, just so that I can have a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to placing this on the page. Okay, so I think that's about right. Looks about even. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and push that down. So there you go. And this one moves even less than this one, so like I said, if I had to do it over again, I would definitely pay a little bit more attention to that belly band, not make it quite as wide, so that this last flap here could actually fold up more. But I think it's okay. and it is what it is now, so I can't go back. But there's my waterfall. So you could, if you wanted, on these are just sort of like little photo templates that I make for myself and I find kind of handy. So this will fit a 2.5 by 3.5 that essentially covers the decorative paper. But if you're doing 2 by 3 photos, it's pretty nice. You can still see the decorative paper behind there. So my thinking is that, you know, whoever gets this would put photos just directly on, you know, the top layer and not put anything on the back. So this last one gets a little bit harder to see, but on this one's not so bad. For the usual viewing angle of a book, it's actually, both of them are actually just fine. Because normally when you're holding the book, it's going to be tilted a little bit more towards you. So functionally, they both work a little bit better. They both work okay, even if it's a little bit less ideal. So there's that. So again, these layouts are going to be open like this, so you'll see both. So let's flip through our book again and show you how this will kind of look if you're flipping through the book. But I'll do a final walkthrough in my showcase video of the final book so you can see the cover and everything. But basically, this will be inside front cover, first page. This is going to be top flap, magnet, closure, and a pocket. I like to include a couple pocket pages just so that if there's additional photos you want to tuck away, then you can do that. This is a photo frame, so be able to slide in a photo there. And these are going to be smaller photo frames, so it'll be possible to slide a photo behind here as well. So nice 4 small photos there. Then you've got just really simple gatefolds, and these will fit 2 by 3s, 2.5, 3.5, kind of a tight fit that, you know, maybe if you put it like that, it'll look a little bit better. But for folks who have Instax mini photos, works great on these panels. So you could fit, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then either a slightly larger photo, maybe a 3 by 4 photo could fit in the center here. So that's why I have the gatefold, so that there's like a nice solid big area for slightly larger photo to fit there. A 4 by 6 is not gonna fit because this album is only, I think, 5 3/4 tall. So 4 by 6 photos will not fit, but a 3 by 4 is gonna fit just fine. And then on the sides, you know, 2 by 3 or as I mentioned, the Instax mini photos are gonna fit really well here too. So you could also fit you know, a couple of, you know, photos that are about 2 by 3 in size. So both of these gatefolds are going to be able to hold quite a few photos. Then we've got our waterfall. So our 2 waterfall pages. And as I mentioned, these will fit a 2 by 3 really well. 2.5 by 3.5, it will fit, but that'll cover all of the decorative paper. But that's, you know, still an option, a very good choice. Then the final is, this will be a, this is a peekaboo, but it's also maybe a smaller So this is a open frame, to be able to slide a photo back behind there. It feels like there's a little bit of tackiness here, so I think I might need to get some cornstarch behind there to loosen that up. And this is going to be the inside back page. So another pocket page with a top flap that has a magnetic closure. So that essentially will be my album, and I'll have a separate showcase video so that you can see the final assembled album. But I think this is going to be a really fun little kind of winter themed album for either the holidays, or maybe this will go to a winter birthday baby. So we'll see. Thanks so much for joining me. Definitely stay tuned for the showcase video. Once it goes live, I'll link it to the end of this one. Until my next video, happy crafting, and have a fantastic day. Thanks.